Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Dr. Campbell. So you're online? Okay, I can see that Syed is also online. And just wait for, okay, Dr. Sari is online and Bu Titin from Jatis is also online. Okay, so we can start today. Thank you very much, Dr. Campbell, for being able to come today. I understand there will be a little bit of IT glitch, so I'm going to actually run the presentation from my screen. So I'm going to share my screen first. Let me just share my screen and see if you can actually see. Okay. All right. Can anyone see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, Dr. Campbell, would you mind introducing yourself for maybe just 5 minutes introduction about your background and maybe about your topic today, please?
Okay then, and just so you know, I can't see your screen, but that's okay.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'm originally a primary school teacher, and I studied at the University of Wollongong in New South Wales, and I taught primary school there.
Yeah.
And I studied for my Doctor of Education also at the University of Wollongong. And once I had almost finished, I started lecturing at the university in Bendigo at La Trobe University, so that's in Victoria. And so now about 8 years, or probably at the time about 7 years later, I started here at the University of Queensland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So what is your specialty in the terms of education, Dr. Campbell?
So I lecture in ICT education, and particularly with the integration of ICT into general teaching practice. So whether someone's a teacher in primary or in secondary schools, and particularly how they can integrate technology as part of the regular teaching and learning.
Okay, excellent. So what are you going to present today, Dr. Campbell?
Okay, so on slide page number 2.
Yeah, okay.
Which I can't see.
Yes, that's right. I think the participants can see from my screen, but just move on. You can start the presentation now. I'll just follow your cue if you want me to, if there is any specific slide or pages that you want me to actually display, that should be fine. Otherwise, you can just do your presentation from there.
Yep. So today I thought I'd talk about the role of ICT in teaching, and specifically about integrating ICT into teaching. I'd like to focus a little bit on TPACK, and I was involved in a national project called the TTF project, and TTF was Teaching Teachers for the Future.
Yeah.
And that project actually used the TPACK framework for the basis of the project. And TPACK's literally the technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge. So to me, what that's saying is that's a framework and giving teachers a language for the integration of technology, which I think is really quite important.
Excellent.
Yeah. And I wanted to touch on using ICT in assessment tasks as well, and about how the importance of using it as a tool.
Wow, that will be very interesting. Okay, I look forward to hearing it now.
So are we ready to start the actual presentation?
Yes, please do so. Yes.
Okay. So I find this interesting. I have 2 blank screens with circles. One's Josh, and I can't see him, and then the other one is obviously the screen.
Okay.
So hopefully everyone else can see that, and it's all okay.
Yeah. Yes, I think Dr. Sari can see it from her side, so that should be fine. I think the rest should be fine. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's great. So the next slide, and unfortunately they're not numbered, but it's the role of ICT in teaching, learning, and assessment.
Yeah.
Basically, ICT can support a range of teaching, learning, and assessment approaches, and it's quite important that this ICT is used in the following ways, particularly with kids, so that they're getting a broad range of ICT being taught with them, and they're using ICT as a tool in lots of different ways. So the top point is about particularly enhancing learning opportunities through access to a range of resources, stimulus materials, and learning tools. There are really a lot of tools that are available to us now, and it doesn't matter what sort of technology a teacher has available, whether it's computer labs, an interactive whiteboard, and no lab, or whether the students have laptops or, iPads or other devices. It's about taking that technology and utilising it in the best way, and the best way pedagogically for the class. So the next point is about increased opportunities for student engagement and motivation. So students are engaged when they're using technology well in the class, and that in turn can motivate their learning. We also need to equip students with the necessary knowledge and skills to use ICT so that they do support 21st century learning. It's also important to support the development of effective student research and evaluation skills, and promote critical and creative thinking skills. And again, with these, it's about providing opportunities for this to actually happen, and those opportunities both in the classroom and out of the classroom. And obviously, by having ICT as it is, and particularly with excellent internet, I can't believe I'm saying that, but excellent internet now, and increasingly, the internet is in an increasing number of places in the world, and the speed is faster, that, we do have more opportunities to work collaboratively, and that's at a local, national, and then a global level. So I guess an example is a few years ago, I wouldn't be doing a presentation like this because technologically it wasn't possible. Okay, so we can change slides.
Yep.
Great. So the next slide is about using ICT as a tool, which I've just mentioned about students. So, see, I just lost Josh's 2 slides, so
Yep.
that's interesting. Oh, Eunice is now up the top. Anyway, so basically for teachers, it's about using ICT as a professional resource. So we can get a lot of information now off the internet. It's much more readily available than what it was previously. ICT is now definitely an accepted mode of delivery, and one that's done by most teachers. And even teachers with limited ICT knowledge can now use ICT in their classroom to a limited extent, which is great. So what I'm saying is there's not many classrooms now, at least in Australia, where there's no ICT. If someone's not as comfortable or confident, then it's much more likely to be limited ICT.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's about getting text types and other such things that are available. For students, it's about providing opportunities to communicate more effectively. It's about developing their literacy skills, as well as, being a valuable tool for researching, composing and responding. And it's just about using, again, ICT as a tool and whatever tools the students have. However, can you change slides, please?
Yes, I've done that, thanks.
Fantastic. So we're now on the next slide, and it's about, the fact that ICT actually does need to be integrated in the curriculum. And what you should be able to see here is there are a couple of photos, and there's a teacher and an interactive whiteboard, and the children are watching. Now, interactive whiteboards really do need to be used where the students do get up. Even though it changes the way teachers teach, they can still often be at the centre of the board, and hopefully this teacher soon got up and the kids did example. Having said that, it does mean that everyone can see it and you can actually teach in that just-in-time way. And the second picture, it shows children actually at the whiteboard, and obviously both of these are elementary and primary classes. And it's about, including the ICT into units of work. And research suggests that integration of technology is the best way to teach technology.
Yep.
Okay, next slide.
Yep.
So in Australia, we actually have the national curriculum, and we're quite fortunate in that it's now coming in and it will bring all of the states in line with each other. So technologies come from something that sort of should be taught, and it's suggested to be taught in slightly different ways in each of the states. It's now, there's two parts. One's the ICT general capability, and that's where the general capability is integrated into all the key learning areas and the curriculum areas. So English, history, geography, science, maths, etc., PE and that. So it's really, there's an expectation that it's now integrated into that. And the other thing that we have is the draft technologies curriculum. That just came about in February, released in February this year, and there's still a consultative process about that. So how much will change. There's two sections to that. One is basically teaching and learning, and like teaching and learning with ICT and the digital technology, and the other design and technology, and that's much more that sort of that science-based design and technology where students are designing technology rather than using digital technology. Digital technology goes much more together with the ICT general capability. And if you click next, there should be a little image that comes through, a little cartoon. I'm not sure if that's come through yet.
Yeah, it's already here. Yeah.
Great. So with regards to the ICT general capability, the next slide suggests, and this is taken from the actual general capability, it is an important concept in the curriculum. Students can use ICT when they interpret and create print, visual and multimodal text. They use communication technologies when they conduct research online and collaborate and communicate with others electronically. In particular, they employ ICT to access, analyze, modify and create multimodal text, including through digital publishing. So, I mean, this is one part of the ICT general capability, but what we can see is that there's a real expectation that students are interpreting and creating print as well as visual and multimodal text. They're using communication technologies, they're conducting research, they're collaborating and communicating electronically, and they also have ICT that they're using to access, analyze, modify and create those multimodal texts. So in other words, ICT is really all-encompassing, which is really quite impressive. Are you still there?
Yeah, still here. Next slide.
Next slide. Great. I think I need to take a photo of this with my camera so that I can make this my photo of the day, that I have done an online presentation. I can't see anyone. I'm so doing this. I can't literally have, all I can see in the corner is my head and nothing else. So I'm taking a photo of this, but you guys can't see. Oh, actually you can, but you can't see the actual photo.
Okay.
No, I can show you the photo. This is what I've got on my screen, and I'm doing a presentation. Can you see that?
We cannot see your screen.
No, I can't see anything. But anyway, you can't see the screen.
No, because you're not sharing your screen. You need to share your screen. But I think
Didn't I have one of the heads in there? Oh.
Yeah. You're on the screen. Your head will be there, but there's in a group call. There's only someone sharing a screen, so there's only one person actually, and I'm sharing mine. Yeah.
And I can still just see turning buttons. Trust me. Anyway,
Okay,
I know it's my photo of the day. Seriously, it's great. Come on. ICT capability, you now should have a slide up with the 5 interrelated elements. And I'm sharing this just as sort of one country's experience with ICT, because obviously if you talk to someone from the States and from other countries, theirs would be slightly different. But I think that we can really learn from each other's, because I think that it's not like the curriculum where governments want us to teach certain things. ICT is about enhancing the curriculum, whether it's, the Australian curriculum or, the Indonesian curriculum. So that's why I thought it was quite powerful to share them, because I think everyone's has a lot of value. So there's 5 interrelated elements, and you can see from the diagram that in the center there's the ICT capability, but then what we have is investigating with ICT, communicating with ICT, and creating with ICT. And that was really coming through in that text that I showed you before. And then we have the managing and operating ICT, as well as applying social and ethical protocol and practices using ICT. And they're those overarching sort of larger concepts that are around the outside. And I guess it's about, and when I talk about the TPACK framework, I think that these sort of concepts come through at the activity level and at the integration level. And I think that that's what's quite important and quite good. And if we move on to the next slide, what we have here is a really busy diagram, and I hope you can see it fairly well. And it's a social media chart, and it literally lists all the various kinds of social media, and it's mind-blowing because there's so many, and it's like, oh my goodness, how do I teach with all of those? But what it's about here is using the ones you can. So an example is Education Queensland. Here in Queensland, they actually block anything that's on the cloud, so you can almost sort of not use most of these things. Having said that, it's about using whatever tools you're given in the best way. So they have tools on their large intranet that the teachers can use, and they're similar to various ones of these. But just looking around, I mean, you can see starting on the left, sort of at about 11 o'clock, there's gaming, and you move around and there's so many kinds of wikis. And I mean, I personally only ever teach using one, and that's Wikispaces. That's the one that was available early. It's well developed. It's free, although now, my students just seem to have to pay $1 to make it public, which I mean, there's reasons for that. And when I explain it to my pre-service teachers and I say, well, you have to pay $1 because, they have problems with spamming and problems with video. And by doing that, it means that the spammers don't have access. And we can then move around, and there's a whole host. So there's, crowdsourced content, collaboration's a great one, blog platforms. I personally don't like Tumblr. I think that for my students, it's too social, it's too likes photos, it likes short, sharp things, because that's the medium, whereas other people think that's great. Young people love it. So I used to use something called EduBlogs, and I find EduBlogs is great because for me, it was just a really nice platform. It's very professional, but again, they had a video and spamming issue, so they solved it in their own way. Moving down, Twitter's great to use with classes. It's fantastic to use at university, but it's really great for high school classes, years 10 to 12, and perhaps even younger. It's great for parents to get the message if you wanted to use it as an information channel for parents and things like that. And you can see it moving around. So, but I think that the message here, and why I like to show this, is because it's about saying, well, there's so many things you can't actually know about them all, and that's okay. Just choose one and use the one that works for you. And then, sometimes I change that one because I have a different purpose or a different group or something else comes out, and then I use that for that different purpose. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Now, obviously, I don't know how much technology you all use, and I can't see you. And I can't really ask because I can't really open any other windows up, I don't think. But basically, this next slide is the process of transition. And sometimes when you're using technology, this is actually what it's about. So you start with using a new technology and it's like, can I cope? Or you might be really, really happy. It's like, yay, it's going to change things. I'm going to be able to do things in a faster way, more efficient way, better way, and things like that. But then it's like, oh, what impact will this have? And how is it going to affect me? And I think that that's really quite, like, a bit worried about those things. And then I often get this is bigger than I thought. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? It is way bigger than what I thought. And sometimes people can go to guilt or depression because this is so not working for me. And, you might just decide to ditch it there. Or you might get gradual acceptance and, it's going to work well and I'm going to be able to move forward in this. And I think that when people introduce something new, and I introduce new things all the time, this can actually be that process of transition. And I think it's really quite a nice diagram because it makes me realise when I'm using something new that, wow, like, this is what I can go through. Or when I start to get really worried about something, it's like, no, it's okay, it'll be fine, and I'm sure I'll see my way through and everything will be okay. So I think that it's about, just accepting that it can be an up and down sort of process. And it's about starting small. It's about, not trying to do too much at one time and trying to move through things quite in a small and fluid way, and then building on those successes. And, when it's about integration of technology, you integrate one thing into something and then you try something new. Maybe get a friend to support you or to help you. I know that I work with other people a lot so that, it's about just so if things go wrong, you can just sort of problem solve and work your way through. Now, I have a video here. Will that work on the slide?
Yeah, let me try to...
You do need to click on the link. It does
yes,
need...
let me try to click it on. Let me just play the YouTube feed. The video.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Leslie. I teach Year 6-7 at Hawthorne Dean Primary School. I'm answering the question, how has social media influenced your professional practice? I'm a big user of Edmodo with my students, and I find it a really good way to connect with my students outside of the classroom. For example, in term 2 of this year, I was out sick for about 3 weeks, and I found it a really good way to still talk to the kids, answer their questions that they had about the work I'd set them, and just to say, I'm doing okay, I'll be back soon. And so it's a really good way for them to just send me good wishes and things like that. I'm also a big user of EduBlogs as well, and I find EduBlogs is a really good way for parents as well to also know what's happening in the classroom. So I always post photos, I put up clips of things that we've been doing in the classroom, or clips that we've been looking at through YouTube, and get kids to talk about them and how
Is the video still starting?
Yeah,
it's, really
it's still going on.
For the kids to get engaged with what they're doing, and for the parents to actually see what's going on, and parents feel connected to the classroom as well. Cool, thank you very much.
Okay, it's done. Okay, so back to presentation again.
Okay, so how can we start the video or?
Oh, it's already started. I've already played. Didn't you hear it?
No.
No, okay. So, yeah.
Did anyone else hear the video? I can't see or hear the video. We could go to the URL if we put, everyone could watch it on their own computer. It's really quite short. It's like a minute. Oh, yes, that's what means could not hear the voice video. I understand now. Yeah, why don't we pop the URL in the messages?
Yep. I'll just type it in.
And I'll do the same when we can.
Yep.
Yep. Excellent. So if everyone now just watches that on their own computer, it's quite short, and it's about social media.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Leslie. I teach Year 6 7 at Hawthorne Primary School.
Could you hear?
Yeah, I think someone is playing it. Who's playing it? Are you playing it?
Me. I'm
Okay,
playing
okay.
it.
Okay.
Is it clear enough?
Yeah.
Do you want me to repeat again?
It's okay. Let everyone play because they cannot see the visual. Maybe they want to see the person talking. But anyway, Dr. Campbell, please continue your presentation.
Okay. So, it's unique. I have to admit, it's unique. At least I could hear another person. Thank you.
Well, you can hear me now.
I can. I feel like there's someone there.
Yeah, I think Dr. Campbell, because the problem here is that usually when we have presentation, it's just Indonesian culture that we need to listen, not to speak. So we just listen quietly. So it's quite normal for the Indonesian teachers to do that. So yeah, maybe it's not very. It's quite strange. But yeah, that's the way it is.
Thank you for that. Because in my classes and when I do presentations, I often talk to the audience, and I get a show of hands, or I use clickers or a learner response system and try to make it interactive, because that's what we do in our culture. And so it's really quite interesting. And the fact that I can't see or do anything anyway is also quite bizarre. Well, the video was basically about a teacher in Victoria, and it only goes for a minute, so maybe later on you can all watch it. And she actually talks about social media and how it's influenced her as a teacher, and it's quite nice. She talks about a website called Edmodo and how she was using it with her class, and when she had some time off sick, her class were using that website to write to her and to ask her how she was feeling and things like that. And I just thought it was a really nice, just a way that the technology was just used as a tool and not just as a, it wasn't an extra. It was something they were using in class, and she got sick, so they continued to use that tool. And I think that that's really nice. And Edmodo is sort of like I've had students before say, oh, it's just like Facebook, but, for teaching and learning. So it's like a closed Facebook. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the next slide. So I just chosen two areas, just English and science, because I wasn't sure what was best. But so I just wanted to say that when you're integrating ICT in the English curriculum, basically students will improve their writing and their reading skills. It does help them to develop their speaking and listening skills as well as support collaboration, creativity, independent learning and reflection. And obviously that depends on the actual learning and teaching activities that you're choosing with the students as to what you're working on. But over the course of 12 months, that's sort of what would happen. And that's actually coming from research. So I'm not just saying that. It's from Bector, which is in the UK, and that's what they actually said. And moving on to the next slide.
Yeah.
This is about integrating ICT into the science curriculum, and basically the students use databases, CD-ROMs, internet to access information. And I think that it's really important to recognise that we do have the internet, and it is about actually, using the resources that are available, and obviously not everyone has everything available, and using it again as a tool. And it's about spreadsheets. They can be used in various ways to gather, analyse and present the data. So obviously they're not used to actually gather the data, but you put the results in. And again, you're just using the ICT as a tool. And obviously it's used to enhance the student learning in science. They can take photos, create ebooks. And I mean, there's examples of, they're used in schools and the students walk around and actually take photos of, say, some of the flora and fauna that are around the school grounds, and then research it and then write about it, and they create a class book. And there's lots of examples like that. And again, just a tool. So using the school set of cameras, personal like phones or cameras that can be brought in, or iPads or other digital devices that are now had. It's just about being able to take the photo to then create and use the technology.
Yep.
Okay, and the next slide. Now this should be the one slide that I changed in that last version.
Okay.
And it's a little cartoon character, and that's my avatar. And I find this quite amusing, but in the last week on Facebook, in both Australia and the States, I've had all of my, a whole heap of Facebook friends, you know, publishing these bit strips, cartoons in Facebook. Like, and I mean, we're talking just my adult friends, and they do the little comic and the saying. Now, I had to do one today because I can't believe everyone's using bit strips for Facebook, because, hey, I've been teaching bit strips for schools to people for years, for several years. And I'm like, so I don't know whether anyone there uses bit strips, but all of a sudden it's the latest phase on Facebook. I'm like, are you serious? Like, amazing. So I had to add in this cartoon. And you know, it's when my sister-in-law did a cartoon last night, I went, that's it, I'm doing one this morning, and I added in this slide because I think that just really highlights that repurposing. And, you know, trips for school, so it's the reverse of what normally happens. Is it's been around for quite a while, and you know, we're now using it in Facebook, but the thing is, often things are used for business. I'll just type bit strips. Bit strips. So it was bit strips for schools, and there's a whole website, and it creates, the students just create cartoons, and it's a great website, and it's a great thing to actually use. So basically everyone's now using on Facebook. So it's sort of a reverse of what normally happens, in that a tool's developed for business or for something else, and then it actually continues on and is then repurposed and used for education. And this happens to be the one of the few things that's gone the other way.
Okay.
So just moving on quite quickly to the next slide. And I just wanted to very briefly talk about the Teaching Teachers for the Future project. And as you can see from the next slide, it was this massive project that was held from 2011 until 2012. So it wrapped up last year, and it actually involved 39 Australian universities. It was all the universities that did teacher education. First maths project in teacher education that involved every university. And basically it was about enhancing the quality of technology integration into learning and teaching. The idea was that people came in and gave professional development to the teachers, the pre-service lecturers that are teaching in, you know, in the courses that are for our next generation of teachers here in Australia, and they would be able to integrate ICT and technology well when they're teaching. So just on to the next slide. So that was all 39 universities and all those people. And moving on to the next slide, again, this is the TPACK slide, so it's quite a nice slide. It used the TPACK framework, and there was nothing new about the TPACK framework. It was developed by Mishra and Kohler in the United States, and it was developed in about 2004 and started to gain some credence in, you know, 2005, 6, 7, 8, and now it's really, really quite big. And when I got told that the grant used this framework, I was like, but it's just about technology integration. And then I realised that what it does is it gives teachers a language to talk about how they're using technology actually in the class. So what we can see from this Venn diagram, because, you know, teachers do like their Venn diagram, on the left-hand side we have pedagogical knowledge. So, you know, it's about the teaching. And on the right-hand side we have the content knowledge. So everyone's got their own content that they're going to be teaching, whether it's in primary schools or secondary schools, English, history, maths, etc. And then you have the technological knowledge. Now, a lot of people feel that they don't have great technological knowledge, but remember, it's not about worrying about that technological knowledge overall. It's what you want to do with that in relation to your content knowledge, what you want to teach, and how you're going to teach it. So it's about saying, well, I want some cameras and I want to have some focus on mobile science, and we're going to so it's just about that actual technology integration, and teachers are getting a language for it. Whereas before, it's like I can't do that. Like the language would be perhaps negative in that that's too hard, and I don't know what to do in my science class. And I like the way I teach them with the chalkboard. So now, and particularly in Australia, because we have to, because of the digital competencies and ICT, general competency, etc. We actually have to do with it. So now, it's important to be able to have that language. So I think that that's quite important. And moving on to the next slide, just so you know, the TTF project had 3 components, and one was working with the teachers, and that was section 3. Component 2 was developing digital exemplars. Now, I was going to show you one, but the links are in the PowerPoint, and unfortunately, I actually need to log in to show it, so I won't be able to show.
Okay.
I know. I didn't, when I prepared, I didn't even think about that. So you can probably read about it, but basically there's a limit to how far you can get with that. So moving on past the Midsummer Night, remixing Shakespeare one, and just the next slide is about using Twitter, and again there's a couple of websites there, and they are just websites, but I'm conscious of the time. So again, you can go to those websites and have a look, but Twitter's just another tool. So it's I just used it as one example because now, as you know from that digital media diagram, there are so many tools that people can be using, and it's about choosing the tool for you. And Twitter secondary schools is a great tool, and you use it quite a different way, a lot of ways, and we've got that there, those 2 links. And move on to the next page, which is the key to using technology. Basically, I've got this here because it's about, you start with your teaching. I teach Year 10 science or Year 8 history or English, and then choose the idea. So I've got this great lesson on a certain topic, and what am I going to do? How am I going to change that? And so you choose the idea to implement and work out how am I going to change it? I'd like to add in digital cameras or another form of technology, and then experiment with ideas. Oh wow, I'm going to do it this way with this class or this way with this class, and I'm just going to do it a certain way, and think about, reflect on the experience, maybe share them with your colleagues and talk about them, and then that worked really well. So embed them into your normal teaching methods, in that you might use the same idea when you're teaching a different class. You might use the same idea with the same class in the next unit, and so you're just slowly starting to build up ideas, and I think that this is really quite nice in how it's going to go.
Dr. Campbell, I have a question about this a little bit maybe.
Yeah.
Let's say you do on the experiment, you do on directly on the students, but with a backup plan that if the technology doesn't work, I'll use the conventional method. What do you think about that?
Yes, I think that that's a really great idea, and I think that backup plans are really important. I mean, obviously today I was meant to be presenting my PowerPoint, and then you've decided to do it because I have some sort of issue. And I think that that's really nice that there is, and I know that still involves technology, but having a backup plan can be really important. And I do that with my lectures. If something I think something may not work or it's really modern and there's a chance it might, I take another plan with me just in case. Yeah, it's a great question, and it's really relevant. And I think that's when you're experimenting with ideas, both planned and unplanned. The backup plan can go in, like, that's one of your planned ideas. But sometimes I think we need to remember some of the best teaching is those unplanned moments when teaching a class and they find another use of the technology that you had never thought of. And you think, but this is fantastic, and wow, look at what the kids are doing, and you go with it. And I think that's really powerful. So that's why experimenting with ideas, both planned and unplanned, is really quite nice. And I think that, this is actually from Peter Kent, one of his interactive whiteboard books. And it's actually a really nice introduction to, implementation and integration of technology in the whole sort of table is,
Okay, thank you.
And moving on to self-directed learning. So the Khan Academy, and someone actually typed the Khan Academy down the bottom, I saw before. It's a fantastic way to start to introduce videos to students. It has over 3,000 video tutorials, remembering that some aren't the best quality. So it is about looking at them and choosing the best ones beforehand. And students are really getting into this, into watching videos. They're able to do it in their own time with increased internet access. And my students here at university are really busy, so they might do it on the train or the bus when they're coming to uni. And I now lecture using video, where the students watch a 6 to 8 minute video before they come to class. And then the theory is they've now got some theory, and I can talk to them about classroom implementation and practice. And I'm finding that really works. And I'm glad you've been using Khan. I think they're great. Eunice has a question. Should we introduce ICT in learning from home or from school, especially school has insufficient infrastructure? I think it's about introducing ICT, in any way. So I did my thesis I submitted in 2007, collected my data in 2004. And in primary schools in Australia, we had slow internet at the time, and a lot of students didn't have computers at home, and they actually would go to the library or a relative's house, aunt, uncle, cousins, etc., to go and get the internet and to get that computer access. So I think it's about using whatever the students have access to, remembering that not all students will be able to get that access, and trying to give that equality of access. Back to using Khan Academy, I think that present tense math problems with Khan Academy is fantastic. And I think that, there's other videos available now, and it's about searching and finding the best video for that actual activity. That's what it's about.
Okay.
So yeah.
Excellent.
Moving on to assessment.
Yeah.
Because I know that there will be some questions. So, with regards to assessment within the time frame, it's about making choices for what you're teaching and trying to keep the assessment task relevant. And it's about actually paying attention to those decisions. So if students, they're using ICT in the teaching and learning, it makes sense that then the ICT is a tool in assessment. It's really quite important to keep ICT as a tool. And if we go on to the next slide, I've included here a landscape of formative assessment. Now, this is actually a page out of the book that Peter Kent and I have written that, came out earlier this year. And, in the lesson, when teachers are assessing, it's about actually, asking impromptu questions with instant feedback for the students. It's about whole class assessment. It's about students using self-assessment and peer assessment. But then within the next lesson, it's like, what are the key teaching decisions and how am I going to use those decisions to inform my assessment? And again, there's some examples there of the sort of teacher feedback that you can get or to give to the students. And then what strategies and activities are effective in the class. And, what we have here is there's, whole class assessment, student self-assessment, peer assessment, aggregation. So what you're using the assessment to actually inform your teaching within the unit. So inform your teaching for that next week. And then again, there's the transition. And one more slide, because then we're at the end.
Yep.
And I just included a cute little cartoon there about social media explained. And it's just funny about donuts. So if you're using Twitter, it's I'm eating a donut. Facebook, I like donuts. Foursquare, this is where I eat donuts. Instagram, here's a vintage photo of my donut. YouTube, a video of eating a donut. LinkedIn, so skills include donuts, etc. So it's just sort of cute, and I thought I'd include that. Okay, so I've had a question here about ICT. Who asked this? Eunice asked this. Should I answer one question at a time?
Sorry, I bombarded you with a lot of questions.
So, look, ICT-based assessment, when I talk about it, I don't necessarily talk about, the quiz online. And the quiz online where the students do it at home, and of course they can get help. And the thing is, if you say it's an open exam and it's online and, you have an hour to do it, that's one thing. But when I talk about using ICT as assessment tasks, I talk about the students using whatever tool they've got and maybe create a concept map in class. The students using, digital cameras in class. So I'm not necessarily talking about ICT and maybe online, or they're using computers to do a test. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I got another question. When the teachers, I asked the previous question, because a lot of schools they did not have a sufficient ICT infrastructure at school.
Actually,
And,
it's just a good example because the school in Jatis just being disconnected because of the internet connection. So you can see it in the chat. So they're still trying to get into, but that's one example. Yeah.
That's Jyotish is actually one of the good example of the one of the best school that has quite a good infrastructure, but now they are disconnected. So in our group, it's really you will experience a lot of uniqueness of interaction, because a lot of things are unpredictable.
Yep.
And like what I said before, if they want, you mentioned that if you want to start from home and the students got more access to it, what would be the things that the teachers must do at school? Do they need first, before embarking to the use of ICT in teaching and learning, should they do any survey, like an ICT survey, what sort of program, what sort of application they have, and then once they implement it, what sort of question or activities that can engage them in the learning? We are talking about at school, you don't have anything, but you have it back home.
Yeah. So I think with regards to school, if there's no internet, then maybe there's still computers. So those computers can be used to create concept maps, or, to do various things. You can still do collaborative activities using Word, for example, word processing tool, which, is sort of fairly common. So it is about using the tools that you have access to, and in ways that that are okay. And I think that it's really interesting to see how ICT levels have changed. I mean, in Australia we have faster internet. In the States it's even faster again, and in the States everyone has it. And I realise now that, the research shows that in some countries they still don't have computers really in schools or internet in schools, but what students have are mobile phones. And that's where mobile learning is becoming really big. And because mobile learning often has, generally has the internet. And if it doesn't, then at some point students can get internet on their phone and they can download the app. And then the app can be used. So one of my master's students just did a project teaching, she teaches English to adults, and she used the Dragon Dictation app. Now, the Dragon Dictation app has English, and it's British, Australian, and the US English. There might be another English, but I can't think of what it is. She teaches the international English, and the students, so it didn't matter where they'd learnt previously, they were able to use this app to actually practice. Now, the app doesn't require the internet, but obviously it did to download, but that's the only time. So there's now tools, and if students have mobile phones that can be used in class, and so that app, Dragon Dictation, is only available on an iPhone. And her students didn't all have iPhones, and she got them to actually share, so that they were using their own resource and they were sharing the actual tool to practice. And I mean, her study was done in class, but it's about the same thing. And I guess a quick survey to the students in class to say, what do you have access to at home? And then trying to get those activities, for the students. Because we know that students like using technology, and so you can build it into activities they can do out of school if you really don't have that access at school.
Yep. Thank you very much for the answer. That's very interesting. There's one school that I know here in WA that they have a very strict policy with regards to mobile phones, and they plan to have the BYOD in 2 years' time. At the moment, they are trialing using a tablet, but I do not see how if they implement the BYOD in 2 years' time, and at the moment all the students have this. I'm talking about the senior high school. All students have the mobile phones, and they haven't tried the mobile phones at the moment. I do not see how they're going to transition when they let the students to bring with all of the devices that in 2 years' time. So in this situation, do you have any tip for the school to implement the BYOD within the next 2 years?
Yeah, so some schools are going that way. Bring your own device, bring your own technology.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how they go. I know of at least one school in New South Wales as well. There are other schools that are doing that. It's about, the teachers using platform independent apps. So, Dragon Dictation only works on iPads and iPhones. So, if you have half the class have that device, they can share and work in pairs, and they're working collaboratively. So it's actually a lot, again, it comes back to teacher training, and it's about, in some ways, training the teachers to say, your students could have all of these devices, and let's look of ways of using them so it doesn't matter what device they've got, or ways where students can be doing slightly different activities on different devices. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, thank you very much for that. So Pak Saya, do you have any other question, or maybe you want to share something?
Pak Syed, maybe you can turn on your mic. It should be okay.
It's fine, Pak Saya, but I mean, if you want to type, if you're more comfortable typing, that's fine.
And it's me typing.
Yeah. It's very interesting here. That during the meeting, because a lot of the teachers, they usually like have a different schedule, so they come and go, and then they will turn on, turn off the mic. So it's because it's really what is it like quite a flexible the way we are running this online meeting. And yeah, so usually like what happen is like when they have this material from the speakers, like from you today, you share some presentation, they will learn it, they will read it through at school and then share it with the friends. And if they have a question, they would like contact us. And then if there are a lot of question that they would like to discuss, they usually like yeah, discuss it on the discussion forum. So that's it's a very different way of teaching, of learning.
Interaction,
Like
I think the interaction style is quite different from the schools in Australia, even with the uni in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do they normally write in Indonesian on
Yeah,
the
yes, they do. They usually write in Indonesians most of the time because I think most of the teachers in Indonesia, they do not accept the English teacher. They need to learn English. So yeah, so they usually discuss in Indonesian, and then you know, on the forum, on the Facebook, or some other media, and then yeah, just do the discussion in Indonesian. But I think because I'm recording this, I hope that I can release it on YouTube so they can actually review our conversation today, actually learn from our conversation. And if there is if there's no more question, maybe I'll just close the session because I think we are off by 10 minutes now. Yeah, that's fine. Is there anything else before I close that maybe you want to say, Dr. Campbell?
No, but if you send me the link to the discussion, I can probably just use like Google Translate to get a bit of an idea, and then I can reply. But obviously, I have to use English. But you could then translate.
Yes, that should be fine. Google Translate is very useful. Yes, that's right. Okay, so let me just close the meeting today. So I would like to thank you very much, Dr. Campbell, for your presence, and we have learned a lot. And thank you very much. That was very interesting, and I've uploaded your presentation. So I think maybe there'll be, if some of us will be in contact with you, they can contact you by email, or maybe they can post something in the forum. If there's something on the forum, I'll send you the link, and then maybe you can answer the questions on the forum. All right.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you.
thank you so much, Chris, for your time.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.